All right, welcome everyone. You are in the City of Milwaukee Public Artist in Residence informational session, and we're going to wait a few more minutes to make sure everyone can join, and then we will jump right in. So welcome. Yes, I think he just turned his camera off, so he can focus on the PowerPoint. That's just fine. All right. Well, hopefully a few more folks will be joining us, but I don't want to delay too much as we have a lot of information to get through today. So welcome. My name is Sally Svedick. I work for the Department of City Development, and I staff the Milwaukee Arts Board, and so have been working very closely with the department and with Arts Board members, including Polly Morris, who's here with us today, to design and launch the Public Artist in Residence pilot. So we're very excited to be at this point and to have you all here today to learn more. We will be recording the session. In fact, the recording has started. So if you have to leave for any reason, or if you're hoping to look back at the recording, that will be made available to you shortly after the session. Scott, there's some background noise from you. If you don't mind muting, if you're able. Thank you. All right. So with that, just a quick overview of the agenda. After this overview, I'll hand it over to Polly Morris to give a welcome and introduction to the Public Artist in Residence program. Then I'll give an overview of the program and the proposal submission requirements. We'll go over some important deadlines, and then at the end, there will be an opportunity for live questions, and we will provide answers as well. So if you do think of questions along the way, feel free to put them in the questions box, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. You should be able to drop down the menu and type your question in there. And we already have one in there. Someone says good morning. So good morning back to you. We're so glad that you're all joining us today. At the point that we reach the question and answers, we will we'll make it available for you to ask questions verbally as well. But if you want to just drop it in the question box when you think of it, feel free to do that as well. So with that, we can go to the next slide, and I will hand it over to Polly Morris.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this info session. This is a brand new program, so that we think it's really important to provide as much information as we can. And every step of this has been a learning process. And thank you for joining us in that learning process. I'm just going to begin by pulling some of the language from the proposal itself, which I think gets to the heart of this program. The City of Milwaukee Artist in Residence program, PAIR, as we like to call it, aims to invest in the city's cultural producers by leveraging the knowledge, practices, and creative toolkits of local artists to build a better community for Milwaukee residents. PAIR presents an opportunity for collaboration, embedding an artist consultant or artist in city departments to strategize, propose, and implement creative solutions to complex civic challenges. The intended outcome of this residency is for the artist and partner department to assess community needs and develop improved programs and initiatives through creative problem solving. This is also an opportunity for cross-sector networking, a collaborative and generative space to think about different approaches for artist residencies for the social good. The program not only aims to bring an artist into a department to see how it works and make an impact, it also aims to give city employees an insider's view of contemporary art and perspective on the lives of working artists. So there's a lot of reciprocity in the way we've constructed the pair program, and the artists will be very much at the center of this, working with the Department of Public Works. The problem that's been involved has been identified. The problem identified is reckless driving, and Sally will talk more about this in her section. I just want to emphasize a few things. This application is open to artists from all disciplines and artists with interdisciplinary practices. You are all encouraged to apply. It's not strictly for visual artists. It can be performing artists. If you think you have a practice that you can bring to bear on this problem, by all means apply. We encourage you not to come in with preconceived notions or an immediate solution to the problem of reckless driving. As the application states, a pair is a thought partner. They foster innovative ideas and prototype strategies for integrating arts, culture, and creativity into city operational practices. So think of, as you put together your application, think about bringing your art thinking, your art practice, and your art problem solving skills to bear on formulating and coming up with collective solutions. We are, at least in the initial stages of this first pilot, more interested in developing a strong process than in the products. So we're interested in the process of problem solving, the process of working collaboratively with the city department and with citizens to find solutions through artist thinking and artist making. And field testing, which is part of it, can be very local. What you learn from a focus project with a well-defined group of community members may turn out to be replicable, or it may have larger lessons that will resonate through the department and through the way business is done in the city. Even more than replicability, we are interested in sustainability, how to build relationships and a way of working among artists, a city department, and residents that continue to yield solutions after you depart. We also want you to walk away with a better understanding of how you can work with and through the city to solve pressing problems. I know that those of you who have looked at the application a lot have been looking at the qualifications and evaluation criteria. We know that this is a new program and that not everyone who applies will have all the experiences and qualifications outlined in the scoring rubric. For instance, there are not all that many artists in Milwaukee who have experience working with local government. Do not let this discourage you. Make the strongest case possible for why you would be the right artist for this project. Show us that you have the vision, the interpersonal skills, and the experience to be successful in this role. Keep in mind that this is a pilot program and you are shaping PAIR for those who come after you. We hope you can bring some enthusiasm to this pioneering role. Again, as the application states, a pair can play a key role in supporting systems change, strengthening relationships between government and communities, and advancing the city's cultural and racial equity goals. The Milwaukee Arts Board is committed to integrating arts, culture, and creativity into city operational practices, and we invite you to join us in this endeavor. We also are very interested in the kind of systems change that artists can instigate within the city systems. Finally, and this is advice I give in every grant writing workshop I teach, read the application very carefully. Read it several times. If you have questions, and some of this looks pretty daunting, I know, by all means send them to Scott, who is also on the webinar and whose contact information you have. those questions and answers get shared with all applicants up to a certain date, which Sally will explain. When you have all your materials together, go over your proposal with a friend or colleague before submitting it to make sure you have followed the directions. Don't forget the deadline. Late applications will not be looked at. So I wish you all good luck and hope we get a very strong pool of applicants for this first iteration of the PAIR program.
Thank you so much, Polly. That was great advice and great insight. We really appreciate all of your work and knowledge that has gone into designing this program. I absolutely echo everything Polly said, and I will now kind of realize that for you all with technical guidance as, you know, as the city, right? So as Polly mentioned, also on this call is Scott Stangy, who is our compliance, at least for this project, RFP compliance officer. So all questions do have to be directed to him so that the questions and the answers can be assembled in an addendum that makes sure that the same information is available to all who wish to submit proposals. And so that will be posted by this Friday at 5 p.m. That's Friday. I'm sorry, no, that's the question deadline. Let me not start saying the wrong deadlines. We'll go over the deadlines in a few slides, and that's when we will talk about the deadlines. Sorry about that. So to start off with, we wanted to clarify sort of an overview of the program, right? So to start, for this first pilot year, the pair, the artist, will be placed with the Department of Public Works. In future years, we hope to continue this program and have additional opportunities within other city departments working on other pressing civic issues, and possibly, you know, continuing to have artists within DPW as well. But for this year, we are hosting one artist who will be in residence with DPW. The pair, as we call them, will work with DPW and community members to understand underlying causes of reckless driving and community impacts of reckless driving. The pair will help in creating a culture in Milwaukee where lives are valued and safe driving is seen as the responsibility of everyone. That's a huge goal. That's a huge thing to reach for. But we do think that you know, this unique opportunity will hopefully result in some of those outcomes. As Polly mentioned, you know, the outcome is really to change, or our desired outcome is really to change behavior in the community. The artistic intervention is one piece of that, one sort of step towards that. But we do understand that success on this issue has to be linked with the sustainability of community change. And we're really hopeful as the organization of the City of Milwaukee, because the mayor has implemented the Vision Zero campaign. Vision Zero states that, you know, our vision is zero traffic fatalities in the City of Milwaukee. And so with that campaign and with this program, we are hopeful that we can get somewhere towards that within this 12-month program. So as the slide in front of you states, the city is accepting proposals for 2 roles as relates to the PAIR program. First, the artist, the pair, as we call them, who will be in residence with DPW, researching reckless driving in Milwaukee and proposing and implementing creative solutions. Second, we are also accepting proposals for a pair liaison. They will work to support the artist and work alongside DPW and the community to assist the artist in implementing their project and keeping lines of communication open. There are 2 separate documents for these 2 roles. One for the artist, that's an RFP, and one for the liaison, that's an RFQ. They are similar in scope, but the RFP for the artist is more in depth as far as what you have to submit. than the RFQ. The RFQ looks a little bit more like a job application versus the RFP is definitely a proposal. But we will get into all of those proposal requirements in a few slides. I did want to go over one piece of the requirements, which may be looming for some folks interested in applying as the artist, and that is insurance. So only the artist has insurance requirements through the RFP. The liaison does not. The requirements are very clearly spelled out in the RFP. That's attachment A. So if you scroll fully through the RFP, it's towards the end. And the requirements include workers' compensation, commercial general liability, auto liability, and professional liability. We did a little bit of research, and it's certainly just an estimate, but we think that it will be in the neighborhood of $2,000 in insurance fees for the entire 12-month program. You may apply if you don't currently have insurance. In fact, we encourage you to apply if you don't currently have insurance, but you will be required to obtain that if you're awarded the contract. Excuse me, I need to take a sip of water. All right. So that is insurance. I'm sure folks might have questions about that, and we welcome you to put those in the chat, and we will go over it in depth. But we will work with you. That's the main takeaway, is that we'll work with you to make sure that you have those insurance requirements in place before you start. So another piece, another technical piece of the PAIR program will be invoicing. So again, this is another piece that relates to not only the function of the program, the actual process of how the program will run, but it also relates to part of the RFP. So the artist will be required to submit invoices for their time, and that will include the cost of materials. Currently, our budget for PAIR is there's a $43,000 budget line for artist fees, and then there's also a $25,000 budget for project costs. Right now, how the program is designed, the artist will submit for reimbursement. They'll submit invoices for reimbursement for both their artist fees, their consultant fees, and the cost of materials incurred. That is another piece where we have our process in place, but we are going to work with work with the artist and work with the liaison to work together to make sure that all of that is taken care of. But definitely something that we wanted to be upfront about. There is that $25,000 materials budget, and that doesn't just have to go towards the cost of paint or materials for the art that you'll be creating, the thing, as we always say, that you'll be creating, that Polly always says. So it can also go to community outreach costs. We want to make this program very interactive with the community, with community organizations, and with many parts of DPW. So you may want to hold community meetings or listening sessions, and costs can be associated with that and used from that budget. Finally, another technical piece of the program, both the artist and the liaison will work in person at DPW and in the community. The liaison will work up to 10 hours, and they will have 10 hours a week. They will have a desk and a computer set up at DPW. The artist will be a little bit more flexible. We understand that you might have a studio that you prefer to work at, and we also hope that a lot of the work will be done in the community, but there will be flexible space at DPW that you can use to attend meetings or do the research that you'll be doing at DPW. But you will be situated within DPW. I think that's important to know. We are DCD, the Department of City Development, and we'll work closely with you as well, but you'll be with DPW. Okay, I think I've stressed that enough. So Scott, if you can go to the next slide, I'm going to just go over some of the proposal requirements. I put an outline of the requirements for each here, but the details are very important as well. The requirements are all listed out in the RFP and the RFQ, but I wanted to talk through them a little bit, starting with the artist RFP. So the title page, that one is pretty self-explanatory. It really just is to capture all of the pertinent information. So your name, your contact information, and also identifying that you are submitting a request for proposal for the artist services for the public artist in residency pilot. So I would suggest once you're ready to create your title page, just copy and paste everything that's asked of you onto the first page of your proposal and copy it in from there. That's a great place to start, and then you'll move on to the cover letter and project understanding. This is a place where we ask you to describe your understanding of the program and why you're interested. Describe, like I said, why the project interests you. Describe your artistic or community practice, your inspiration, your methods. And then we also ask, how will you creatively engage DPW staff, stakeholders, and Milwaukee residents to achieve the desired outcomes as stated in this RFP? And just to get you thinking again, those outcomes relate to creating a culture where lives are valued and safe driving is seen as the responsibility of everyone. So we are looking for an outcome of changing community behavior. So then from there, we ask you to submit your qualifications, background, and past experience. So that will look like an artist statement and likely a resume or CV, or if you would rather just kind of include the relevant past experience working on similar types of projects or size projects, you can do so. But we do ask that you include, like I said, qualifications, background, and past experience. Then samples, we do want to see samples of your work since that's what will inform. We use the RFP submissions to inform the scoring of your proposal. So we ask that you submit up to 10 images or links to videos of previous relevant work. This is a piece that we'll stress a few times, but an email cannot exceed 50 is it megabytes? Yeah, megabytes. So please plan accordingly. If you need multiple emails to get us all the information, that works great. We just ask that you number them accordingly. This is all in the RFP, so just kind of highlighting it as a reminder. So up to 10 images or links to videos. Make sure you title those so that we can identify them as linked with your RFP. And if you are submitting a video, we are going to be respectful of our panelists' time and ask that you identify 3 minutes of each video that you would like them to view. All right, last couple of pieces for the artist RFP. We are asking for professional references, up to 2. So if you only want to include 1, you can do so. But if you have 2, that would strengthen your proposal. And we're hoping that those references can confirm and speak to your ability to perform the scope of services, and they can also speak to your work on similar past projects. Then finally, the rates and phased timeline. So this section relates to essentially relates to the artist fees, how you would like to be paid. So the total budget is $43,000, as we mentioned, for the 12 months of the program. There's a few ways you could do this. You could state your hourly rate, and the danger of that is that if you just provide your hourly rate, then you may run out of well, you may deplete the budget before we finish the 12 months. So what we're really asking for here is not only your hourly rate, but to put a little bit more thought into your phased timeline. So in the RFP, we do have a breakdown of the phases of the program, starting with research and familiarizing yourself with the department. That is going to be about 3 months, and then you'll do prototyping and field testing, another 3 months, then 5 months for project implementation, and at the end, 1 month for program evaluation. So you'll likely want to think about how much time you will spend during each of those phases, broken down by the full amount. So some thought will have to go into this, and some light math will also have to go into this, but I'm just going to read this little section here. So the artist should provide the hourly rates to be used for services, include a breakdown of the approximate number of hours you propose for each phase, and the corresponding total budget for each phase. So I think if I keep talking about this, it might get a little bit more confusing, but essentially you want to break down by phase how much time you'll need, and then you could total the hours, divide the 43,000 by the total hours you think you'll need, and that would equal your hourly rate. I hope that made sense. Polly, yes.
Quick point. We do expect that if you are in the position of having to procure insurance, it will come out of the $43,000. So be sure to consider deducting that cost, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do it that way. You could also just assume that cost, and then know that your fees that you are paid through each invoicing will include that. Scott, feel free to jump in if I'm explaining this in a way that is in danger territory, but
this is Scott Stengy, and I'm sharing my screen for the slideshow, so I don't screw that up by turning my camera on. So I am here, but on the topic of the cost of the insurance, inherently we're going to leave it up to the groups or individuals submitting the proposals on how they feel it's best to accommodate that cost. It could just be a business overhead cost, and then therefore the full 43,000 would go towards your fees for the program. However, if it works better for you and you can still submit, an attractive plan for how you spread out, your hours, incorporating that cost as part of the over 43,000, that would work for us well as well. So I mean, we're not dictating how you accommodate that cost, but we're flexible in that regard.
okay, thanks for that. I think that question and answer we should make sure we add to the addendum if possible. All right, I do see a few questions in the question box, and I think I'm going to, yes, I see it will cover information about the pair liaison, and that is the next piece that I'll cover. The RFP is available now. If you, there's a slide in a few that links to, shares the link to the RFP page. So I will highlight that when it comes through. Someone asked, are we able to participate? We have $1 million E&O insurance. I'm not sure. Is that something you're able to answer, Scott?
Yeah, so this is Scott Stange again. I would direct you to the RFP. There is a listing of the insurance types of insurance policies along with the minimum requirements in each policy that you'll need to carry. And so I think to answer piecemeal questions about types of insurance might do a disservice to all that are here and might further confuse some things. So I would recommend looking at the RFP and specifically the section in there that's marked insurance, and that will lay out all the policies and the amounts of each policy that would need to be in place. And so go to that RFP, take a look at that. Friday is the deadline for questions. So if you, after looking at the RFP, you still have some additional questions regarding insurance, please email those to me. And my email address will be in a future slide forthcoming shortly.
You can also take that information in the RFP to your insurance agent and have them look it over and let you know if what you have works.
Great. I see a few more questions, but I think I'm going to save them for the end, since that's when we are planning on doing the questions. But I just thought those were especially relevant to this discussion we were having. So wanted to kind of get them covered and make sure that people had the answers they were looking for. All right. I think a great point that was stressed is if you do have questions, keep throwing them in the chat. We want to make sure that we're answering everything clearly. And if you don't have questions now, you have until 5 p.m. on Friday, August 12th, this Friday, August 12th, to send those questions by email to Scott, and we will answer them in the addendum so that everyone has those answers. Okay. So that was the requirements for the artist RFP. Someone asked if we're talking about the liaison. We definitely are. I'm going to go over some of the requirements for the liaison RFQ. But I think, you know, just to start with, the liaison's role is to help catalyze the project. So the artist will be working through researching, familiarizing, and starting to think creatively about the types of projects and outreach that they want to do. The liaison will be convening meetings. They will be helping the artist to start outlining the project budget and looking at project costs. And you know, the liaisons also welcome, when possible, to attend meetings with the artist. They'll be holding meetings between the artist and DPW staff. But you know, we are limited based on our budget for the program. We are limited to the liaison working an average of 10 hours a week. So you know, it will be a little bit constrained. We are fully understanding that that is not as much time as we would like, but as you mentioned, that is what we have to work with in the budget. So yes, the liaison, we hope that they are a very an independent and catalyzing type of person who we can find for this role. Just making sure there's no more questions related to that. Okay. So for the liaison RFQ, for the request for qualifications for the liaison role, starts with a very similar title page, but you would list pair liaison instead of artist services. Again, all of this is in the RFQ, and so that would be best to, I would recommend, copy and paste into your RFQ document. Then we ask for a resume or a CV that will show us, you know, what your experience is working on similar programs, programs of this size, budgets of this size, and just generally working with artists and, you know, maybe not municipal organizations and departments, but working with artists and larger organizations in general. Then you'll submit a statement of qualifications and interest, similar to the artist. So describe why this project interests you, describe your artistic knowledge and experience, your experience working with the community, and your experience working with municipal or other levels of government. You could also include, your experience working with other large organizations if you don't have experience working with municipal or other levels of government. And then finally, what is your experience managing budgets of similar scale or working within similar time constraints? So, so for the resume and CV, we're asking that you show us what you've done, and then for statement of qualifications and interest, we are asking that you tell us, why this project interests you and how your experience fits into this program. And then finally, we ask similarly for 2 professional references that can confirm and speak to your experiences. So I think this is a good opportunity to answer another question I see in the chat. How many hours are expected of the artist? And as we mentioned, liaison, each week, is this considered a full-time opportunity? So the liaison will have up to 10 hours a week. They could decide to spread that out. So some weeks work 5, some weeks work 15, depending on the phase that, that the program is in. As far as the artist's time, so that's, that is why we ask for your rates and phased timeline. The artist may not be working a typical 40-hour a week, 9 to 5, full time week with this program, but that will be left up to the artist, and that should be thought through in the rates and phase timeline piece of the RFP. So, I guess that's kind of a loose answer. You could consider it a full-time opportunity. I would say it's not as if you would be prevented from doing any other work, but it will likely take a good chunk of your time each week.
Yeah, Sally, so for instance, if you considered this a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, 2,080 hours a year, then your hourly rate would be between $19 and $20 an hour, basically. So that's how those things work out. If you have a higher rate, obviously it's not going to be 40 hours a week.
Yeah, thank you, Polly. It's a good example of that math I was trying to explain earlier. I think just hearing an example is helpful. So, all right, so those were the proposal requirements. We can move on to the next slide, but please keep putting your questions in the chat. We do have one that's unanswered. I do see that, and I think I'm going to save it for the end because it's a larger picture question. And I'm going to hand it over to Scott, who is going to just briefly go over the important deadlines, or take as much time as you want. Don't have to be brief.
Thank you, Sally. So on the screen right now, you'll see that we do have some deadlines coming up, and these deadlines relate to both the RFP and the RFQ. We're running them kind of on the same timeline. So this Friday, August 12th, by 5 p.m., if you do have any subsequent questions after this info session, or after rereading the RFP, please email me the questions. My email address is on the screen. The question that you send, along with any answer that would be provided, would get posted by the end of the day on Monday, August 15th, which is our deadline to post our, which is the timing that we're hoping to have all the questions answered by, and posting an addendum by Monday. It'll be posted on the same site, that the website that the current RFP and RFQ are posted, and it'll also will also include a recording of this info session. So as you're going through and listening, if there is something that you wanted to go back and re-listen to, that will certainly be available, a posting of this video. And then finally, the proposals, your responses to both the RFQ and, or I should say, the RFP and the RFQ are due on Monday, August 22nd. They are due by 11 a.m. They're due by via email. And so the email that you need to send it to is there at the bottom. It's dcdpurchasing@milwaukee.gov. I would caution those looking to submit a proposal, do allow yourself enough time to have the email go through and have it be received. So the 11 o'clock deadline is when we get it. So I've had instances where people will run into some technical issues on their end, and it will take a little longer than they initially anticipated. And by the time it gets to us, it's after the 11 o'clock time period. And unfortunately for us, the 11 o'clock time period is when it has to be received. So do take that into consideration. I know also as part of this RFP, we are asking for samples. As Sally had indicated, the max amount size per email is 50 megabytes. So if you're anticipating that the sample sizes that you're going to send either individually or collectively are going to exceed the 50 megs, you can send it in separate emails. I would just ask you to put something on the subject line that would alert us to that, so that on the receiving end, we can keep everything together and make sure that your proposal is received and evaluated accordingly. And then again, with the multiple emails, that would also go into the whole line of recommending that you take enough time to get everything to us by the 11 a.m. time period. So again, just a quick recap: Friday by 5 p.m. If you have any follow-up questions, please email those to me. The addendum with any questions and answers will get posted on Monday the 15th, along with a copy of this recording. And then finally, the proposals are due on Monday, August 22nd at 11 a.m. And that 11 a.m. is the time that we have to receive them by. That is all the time that I needed. So I'm going to turn this back to Sally. And
I have a quick question.
Sally, do you want me to? Oh yeah, absolutely.
So when people submit their proposals, will they get a response email saying that it has been received?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will, yes, we will set that up to have an auto reply, so that when we receive them, I will, it'll automatically send a response back to you.
And what should people do if they don't get the response email, but they think they've submitted?
They can submit, yeah, they can email me, which is that same email address that you would send the questions to, or if it's getting down to the wire, you can give me a call. My phone number is 414-286-5727. That's 414-286-5727. And we can also make sure that that gets posted in the addendum with any of the other questions. And with that, Sally, do you want me to go to the next slide?
You can leave this up for just one more second. So I did just want to point out, someone asked, when will the RFP be available? It's available. It's been available for a few weeks now. You can find it through the actual link, but I went ahead and created a bit.ly link, which I thought was a little bit easier to use and remember. So that is right at the top there. That will take you to the page. That takes you to DCD's RFP page, where there is a link to the artist RFP and the liaison RFQ. That is where the addendum will be posted, and where the recording of this this informational session will be posted as well. And Scott, I'm wondering if this recording can be posted before the addendum. Maybe we can see. can see how that works out.
Sure. Absolutely. We can work on making that happen. Yes.
Yeah. Great. So there are a few questions in the question box. Keep putting those in there. I did want to briefly touch on a question that was in the chat. So can you submit a mixed sample, both images and videos? Absolutely. That would be for the artist RFP. We would welcome, whatever sample, whatever combination of samples you want to submit to us. We welcome those. So however that works out, definitely feel free, images and videos. Probably just images and videos, but if you could think of another type of sample that we'll be able to access, we would likely be able to accept that as well. Okay, so there's a question here. I'm going to read it out, but we may need a little bit more context in order to answer it. So we have, are there only on-site opportunities for artists? We are a full television production team, so we are concerned that we would not be able to work on site, but can do remote. That if the person who asked that would like to speak to it at all, I think that might help us answer. At this point, I guess my initial answer would be, we designed this program for an individual artist, not an entity. Seems like maybe you're speaking of a whole team. So, I think if there was an artist from your team who applied and they were supported by a television production team who was not in person, that might be a way to apply. But at this time, I don't think we were looking for a team to apply. Does that match your understanding, Polly?
Yeah, I do think this was set up just for individuals, and that assuming that public health guidelines allow us to do this, we are counting on a good deal of face-to-face interaction between the artist and the city department and the artist and the community.
So I'm going to give the person who asked that question an opportunity to speak. I think we had them. Okay, so we had you muted and now you're only self-muted. If you'd like to come off mute and speak to that question, or if you had additional questions, you're welcome to. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. And first and foremost, thank you all for doing the work that you're doing to keep us safe in Milwaukee. The collective whole of our group is a television platform, but we don't have one individual artist that we could allow based on our insurance. We don't do on-site, we can do remote. And so we were just kind of concerned. We do have one artist that could work on it, but because of the virus and the other things that are happening, we are not able to let our staff go on site. So if we can have somebody in our office do it remotely, we are totally 100% in. We just needed to know if that's possible.
Yeah, so we understand the health concerns, and the policy within the city is to be masked whenever working. So there is understanding there, but I do think that we are hoping that an individual artist could work to ingrain themselves within DPW, which would likely involve virtual meetings. It may also involve in-person masked meetings. And it would definitely involve going to community events, holding community outreach events in person, again, while keeping precautions in mind. So I hope that answered your question. I'm open to a bigger dialogue because there might be folks in the same boat here as well. But that is how we've designed this, at least this pilot year.
Yeah, and I guess I'm speaking to the 10 hours that you're suggesting would be, that you're requiring for someone to spend 10 hours on site, especially with, everyone wanting to work remotely. I'm just wondering if that's something that's mandatory.
So the 10-hour reference was for the liaison, so they'll be working to support the program overall. but I think you're speaking about the artist RFP, right? You're not considering applying as the liaison.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, so the liaison, they're 10 hours a week. We could work with someone on an individual basis, but we were hoping to be able to build relationships that there was at least a hybrid work environment. But since that's not what you were speaking about, I think really for the artist to be, again, it could be hybrid, right? Like if there's a day of virtual meetings, I wouldn't see any harm in the artist making their own decisions about where they take those meetings from. That's totally fine. But there will be a need for the artist to be in person at some points within DPW and within the community.
Oh, okay, fine. That's work. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Yes. Thank you. Good questions.
it. Mhm.
Okay. So next question, are the invoice payments made out per phase? So total of 4 invoices before each phase. The invoicing and reimbursements, we are willing to work with the artist on a case-by-case basis to make sure that that's all working smoothly with the project timeline and budget. But I believe we would be able to do up to, one invoice payment per month versus per phase. So we could do per phase if that's easier, but right now we're able to do up to 1 per month based on the time that is being submitted, the artist fees and the project costs being submitted for that month.
Right, and Sally, again, it's for, you can only submit to be paid for hours you've spent already, right?
Exactly. Yep.
You can't invoice prior to the session, to the phase.
Yep. The invoice would be for hours that you've worked in that past phase that you're submitting for, the past, however long, 4 weeks in this example, and any project costs that you've incurred during that time.
Sally,
Yes.
just want to add, I know that in this info session, we've been combining the RFP and the RFQ. And so just for those who are here primarily to hear more about the RFQ and the liaison position, as the chosen liaison, you would be considered a temporary employee under a contract that the city already has with a temp servicing organization. And so in those situations, you wouldn't necessarily be submitting an invoice to the city. You would be reporting your time back to the temp agency, and then they would in turn pay you and then bill the city. I presume that answer was more related to the actual pair position, the RFP, but just for the sake of covering the basis of if someone was here on the RFQ for the liaison position.
Yes, that's a great clarification. Thank you, Scott. So next question, the position is 12 months long, but when does it begin? There's the September interview dates, but are there any other must-attend dates in the process? So we haven't set a start date for the program yet. As was mentioned, there are dates of September 7th and September 8th that we have asked interested applicants to hold one at least for that. So if we decide, those interviews are necessary based on the application pool, based on the proposals submitted, then, we'd likely be looking at a late September, early October start date, but we don't have that set at this point. So that's something that we would be able to work with the selected artist and liaison, and also working with DPW staff to align the best start date. we also might have the liaison come on a little bit early to start working on getting everything in order for the program. But that's on a case-by-case basis. So we will work with the selected artist and the selected liaison to make sure that the timeline works for them. And just a reminder, if you want to ask a question verbally or want to get more clarification, please just raise your hand so I can allow you to unmute. I think that would be the best way to do so. All right, I'm seeing thanks. That's helpful with the timeline. Great. Okay. Is there an age requirement? We have artists that start at age 18. I believe 18 would be the age requirement, but I will let Scott answer that fully.
Sally, I think that's a question that I think you're right on, but just to, we'll give that a little bit more thought internally, and then we can respond as part of the addendum on that specific question.
Perfect. All right, all right, cool. I'm glad that helped. To clarify, you'd like a reference with contact information, but not a letter of recommendation. Yes, and I think that that's important that we clarify that in the addendum. So we will add that answer that yes, references, please include contact information, maybe phone and or email address for the reference, but we are not asking for a letter of recommendation. Okay, great, awesome. All right, well, I'm just taking another minute here to look at the questions box, to look at the chat. I'm not seeing anything. Anyone have any other questions before we wrap up?
Just a reminder that when you go on the bit.ly page that you choose the right application and fill out the application for the position you want.
Thank you, Polly. And I guess it hasn't been said, but if you are potentially interested in both roles, you are welcome to apply for both. I don't see why that wouldn't be allowed. So, double your chances to be involved with the pair program. We certainly love the enthusiasm. So. All right. Well, with that, we thank you all. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Scott at the email address in red on your screen right now. His email address is also included on the first page of the RFP and the first page of the RFQ. So please send your questions to him and we'll get you those answers. If you're looking for the recording of this session, it will be posted to that RFP page in place of where the registration link was. So that should be there. Who knows, maybe even by today. We will do our best, but definitely by that August 15th addendum posting date. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. Did you have something, Scott? No?
No, sorry.
Okay. All right. We'll take care, everyone. We will end it here. Thank you for your time today. Oh, wait, I see a question. No questions. Okay, great. Oh, Sierra, yeah, go ahead. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. So the LBE, looking at this, I just pulled it up, the form. You're saying this is something that we fill out if we don't already have an LBE, or is this?
I can speak to that. So as part of the RFP process, the city has, in the procurement process, the city has what's referred to as the local business enterprise. It's a preference program that if you're submitting a response to the RFP and you are a local business in the city of Milwaukee, you may fill out the appropriate paperwork as indicated in the RFP and submit it for review. And if you're considered a local business enterprise, according to the guidelines for the LBE program, then you would be entitled to an extra 5 points towards your overall total.
Okay, got it. Because I have a MBE and a WBE, and I didn't have the LBE, and I was just wondering if I had to go through all that process to get that, or just fill out the form.
You would just fill out the form. The
Okay.
LBE program is strictly location based in terms of where your entity is physically located.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, just taking another moment to see if anyone else had anything. But if not, I think we are all set. So thank you so much again for your time, and I will end it here.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.